This is Bad Movies We Love, part of the Shice Podcast Network.
What's up, Bad Movie Lovers? I am your host, Nick Shice, and thank you for joining me for another episode of Bad Movies We Love.
If you're listening to this, you are the Resistance.
That's right, you are the Resistance, and you can help support that resistance by going to ko-fi.com, that's ko-fi.com/badmovieswelove. But as many of you have already done, you spread the word. Word of mouth and things like rating the show on your podcast platform also go a really long way in helping an independent podcast like this one as well. And for today's episode, we're talking about a movie that had my friend Sean, who you might remember from the Morbius episode, asking me what poor soul I enlisted to help me with this one. But this show is on a volunteer basis, and this time it was a friend of the show, Darragh McGrath, that reached out to me and claimed a movie off my wish list. So without further ado, it's time for one of the crown jewels of Bad Movies We Love, and that's Ate de Jong's Drop Dead Fred from 1991. A lot of people probably will not like this movie.
Who is this movie for, and who is it geared toward?
It's for me.
The tone is definitely all over the place, I think. I mean, I like that about it, but it's also like kind of weird.
It boasts a whopping 11% on the tomato meter.
Who is this guy? He's terrifying. He's scary.
Why is he such a disgusting pervert?
You know, he's like a young boy who's just like disgusting. You know, he's like makes lewd jokes and is like stupid and putting a snot everywhere.
Not only shameful, but outright illegal.
I see a man and he's chaotic and he does terrible things.
Am I supposed to be laughing here? This is very traumatizing.
It's jaunty.
She wants to like be gross and like pick her nose and flick boogers, and she wants to make mud pies.
It is kind of like a coming of age film, except that she's coming of age as an adult.
Darragh, thanks for joining me. It's afternoon for me, and probably late afternoon for you now?
It's late afternoon here, yeah. It's been a nice summer day still, just about.
Yeah, I'm still hanging on to summer. I'm not ready for it to be fall yet.
Yeah, I'm okay with it. I don't do well in the heat, so it's not the worst, you know.
Me either, but I don't have a choice because I live in Los Angeles, so
yeah.
When it gets hot, it gets hot.
You get some real hot days there. Yeah,
we do. But thank you for joining me to talk about a movie that is, it was a big part of the inspiration for the reason that this show exists. So I consider it one of the crown jewel movies for this show. And that is Drop Dead Fred from, was it 91?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So it's gone into past its 30-year anniversary. I didn't even know that there was a 25th anniversary Blu-ray.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so that when I watched it, I was watching an old DVD from, the beginning of DVDs.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's still not a film that's kind of been seen by all that many people. It was definitely very popular within my family. We watched that movie, I don't know how many times. We had it on VHS, obviously. Mm-hmm. And we were big Rick Mayall fans, so everything Rick Mayall did, we kind of wanted to watch.
Yeah, he was pretty popular outside of the US. So I think
mainly UK and Ireland. I mean, that was I
heard like Australia and New Zealand as well. He had a pretty good fan base. So it was kind of a weird mix for this film to like star him, but then it was also sort of like an independent studio, so it didn't have the backing to really push him as the star in these overseas markets. So I don't think it ever really found its footing that way. So it's kind of like this weird secret that like if you know, and if you don't, you probably would just look at this movie like it's a disaster, which I know a lot of people do.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of is. It's just a very weird it's a very weird movie. I mean, we're probably going to get into it, but I mean, who is this movie for and who is it geared towards? It's a difficult kind of question to answer sometimes.
It is because I mean I saw it in childhood. I was, I don't know,
Mhm.
8 years old, and I had watched it around that time, and then probably again when I was in my early teenage years. But I've watched it many
Yeah.
times throughout my life, into adulthood, at many different stages of adulthood, and it's never a movie where I thought I didn't like it, but it's always been a movie where I've sort of recognized that a lot of people probably will not like this movie.
Yeah, definitely. And I think how much you can take Rick Mayall is maybe a large part of that. I mean, his sort of demeanor and his antics are they can definitely rub people up the wrong way, I'm sure. Um, he's sort of like a Jim Carrey esque before Jim Carrey was even around, but he's got that kind of Ace Ventura energy, is how I would put it.
Yeah, and this character was written specifically for him. So it's interesting to see that he has this kind of personality that can be maybe very grating, and it wasn't necessarily the right audience to mix him with Phoebe Cates for this movie.
Yeah.
But you had mentioned that this was a family that, or excuse me, that this was a film that was like popular within your family.
Mhm.
So was it something that like your parents showed to you? Were you all Rick Mayall fans before the movie came out, and that's kind of how you crossed that bridge?
If we were, yeah, it was definitely my eldest sister would have been. She's about 10 years older than me, so I was the youngest in the family. So she kind of introduced us to a lot of stuff like that. So there was a show called Bottom that him and his kind of um, his partner in comedy, Aid Edmondson, they had this show, and it's just about these two. I mean, I don't think as kids we should have been watching it really because it's about these two real like disgusting men living together and getting and it was very much just in their apartment. Usually there was like odd episodes where they would leave, but it was a very kind of basic sitcom, but not a sitcom. It was like like they did very dirty jokes, very kind of questionable humor. I mean, I haven't seen it in years, but I a lot of like fart jokes and you know poop jokes and everything like that. And Rick Mayall, he's also in The Young Ones, which was another popular show that we would watch. I don't know if you're familiar with. Did you have that show or did you ever see that show?
I didn't. I mean, it sounds like something I would like based on how you've described it. But
Yeah,
yeah, it's like
yeah.
Rick was not a person that I knew of before this film. And
Mhm.
that, I mean, I can hear your accent. Are you from Ireland?
Yes, yeah, I am. I'm Irish.
Okay,
Yeah,
so yeah, maybe those were just things that were on TV that like I was never going to have access to. But thanks to the
yeah.
internet, I can go back in time and probably find a lot of that stuff.
Oh yeah, you can watch. I mean, you can watch his Blackadder stuff. Blackadder was the show with Mr. Bean with Ron Atkinson.
Hmm.
That was the show that got him his start on BBC. And Rick Mayall plays pretty much the same character. He just kind of breaks down the door and starts causing chaos and saying random things. And then there was The Young Ones, which was like he was a kind of a that was a real punk show. It had used to have like guest artists. So you'd have Motorhead on there and Madness and a lot of like 80s Thatcherite kind of that era of music in the UK and stuff like that.
That
It was,
does
it was
sound
pretty
fun.
cool.
Yeah,
Yeah. The
I'm
Young
gonna have
One
to check
stuff is
that out.
very weird. Yeah.
Well, you had also mentioned Jim Carrey, and oddly enough, they had
Mhm.
floated the idea for a sequel for this film and
Yeah. Yeah.
had Jim Carrey in mind. And then I think he had signed on to do Ace Ventura at that time. So it was really
Mhm.
before like he had exploded in popularity. But interesting that you made that connection, and that was almost reality at some point after this
Yeah.
film. But this movie did not do well enough to warrant a sequel, I don't think.
Jim Carrey made the right choice, probably in
Yeah,
the
he
end.
did.
Yeah, I don't know. It would have been weird with Jim Carrey. I think. Uh, I also read that Robin Williams was offered the role, which I can kind of see actually. Robin Williams.
Yeah, I mean that would have
It'd be
been,
nicer.
it would be a much more mainstream, like you said, nicer
Yeah.
comedy
Yeah.
family film than this ended up being. But I think that's what made this such an endearing film for me, is that it was so
Mhm.
atypical compared to what else was out there at the time, because it does have this weird imbalance of, like you said, who is this movie for? And in talking to another friend of mine that's in the film club, he too asked the same question watching it. Who is this for? And I just default to it's for me. It's for people like me that didn't really like have a sort of clearly defined box of like what their movies are going to be. And like there was a time where it was basically I just watched whatever my mom put on, and she didn't want to watch things that she didn't want to watch. So I didn't really watch a lot of like kids programming or kids movies. It was once all of my younger sisters were born that like Disney Channel, Nickelodeon, sort of all the Disney animated films really became popular in our household. But you know, for a few years there, it was like, here, you get to watch RoboCop and Terminator and Predator and all this stuff when I'm like 5 years old or younger. So she's just like, yeah, let's have fun with that. Yeah,
I also watched RoboCop when I was quite young, actually, as well.
So, yeah, I just did a guest spot on a podcast from Scotland talking about RoboCop, and that's In Film We Trust. And,
I've listened to that. Yeah.
And so I feel like I think we did an hour and a half, and ultimately I was like, I feel like the real challenge was getting me to not talk about RoboCop all day long. So the fact that we trimmed it down to just over an hour and a half was a good job on their part to keep me in check. But I want to ask you, since you listened to the wish list episode of this show and volunteered to do Drop Dead Fred, so I want to ask you. Well, firstly, what do you think people would point to as to why this would be considered a bad movie? I mean, its ratings are pretty low. It's got like a 25 Metascore. I mean, IMDb user rating is not too bad at 5.9, but it still only has like 31,000 reviews. And in comparison to a lot of films that I've watched or that I've covered on this show, I've seen, you know, you're talking hundreds of thousands of people have taken the time to give it a rating. So I don't know if just maybe the curve has moved away from IMDb in favor of Letterboxd a little bit more, but 31,000 still seems like a fairly small sample size.
Yeah, for sure. I think to a degree, I'd say it's not the people who the film was maybe geared towards haven't seen it. I think that the tone is definitely all over the place. I like that about it, but it's also like kind of weird. It's sub Tim Burton to a certain degree. A lot of the kind of stuff near the end is very Beetlejuice but like cheap. and I think like, you know, again, Rick Mayall isn't a known quantity to you. I think you would be like, who is this guy? He's terrifying. He's scary, or he's, you know, creepy, or he's pervy, or you know, he does a lot of things in the film that would be considered quite problematic, I think.
Yeah.
So and then you've got Phoebe Cates, who's just like very sweet in the film, and it's got this sort of like saccharine kind of vibe to it. And then you've got the kind of the dark elements that are sort of off-putting and a little bit disturbing. I know you had Return to Oz on your list as well, and I think that's a similar thing where people are expecting, you know, they're expecting the Wizard of Oz, and they're getting, you know, a woman taking her head off and those crazy wheelie guys and stuff like that. So it's kind of scary.
Maybe there's something of a trend on my list.
So I think Drop Dead Fred has that element of like, it's maybe a little too weird, but not like crazy enough or something like that. Yeah. Where it's like maybe they're trying to be a family film, but it's not a family film, obviously.
Not for most families, I would say, but it seemed to work well
for my family.
For my family, exactly. But Phoebe Cates, at the time that she did this, she was sort of like, you know, a cinema darling to some degree, but then, you know, she had done the first two Gremlins movies. And she did I Love You to Death also right before Drop Dead Fred, and then Drop Dead Fred comes along, and that kind of torpedoed her career at that point. And like, I think it's a little bit unfair because it's not even like she's bad in this movie at all. It's just the reception of the movie maybe pushed her out of the realm of like, you're no longer in contention for America's sweetheart kind of thing.
Yeah. I think, I mean, I remember seeing Gremlins and stuff when I was younger, and Phoebe Cates was obviously a name that people knew. So I didn't realize it came at kind of that point in her career where maybe she could carry a movie by herself.
Mm.
But she doesn't have any like really great. I mean, all of her scenes are sort of stolen by Rick Mayall, obviously, who's just doing his thing. Yeah, so I mean, that sucks for her, I guess. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, it's
I don't know what movies.
Unfair.
Sometimes I find it it's weird that like one movie can destroy an actor's career unless it's like a total massive flop. But like this film, like nobody saw it, so it could just disappear.
Yeah,
I mean, she could make another few movies.
It boasts a whopping 11% on the tomato meter. So really,
that's crazy.
Really bad on the tomato meter. But the audience score is a 77. So I think kind of the same thing where it was really frowned upon by critics and film writers. But the people that actually saw it, for the most part, liked it. And I think part of that is because, as you mentioned, it's so strange. It also has a really fantastic cast and some really strong performances as well. But since you had the VHS version, was this a movie that in Ireland had any kind of footprint? Was there like any advertising or any sort of awareness for this film? Because this wasn't a movie that I knew about until it was available on home video as well.
Yeah, I don't remember the film coming out in the cinema or anything like that. I mean, the first film I saw was Batman, which was like in Ireland probably came out in 1990, but it was a 1989 film. I don't remember Drop Dead Fred in the theaters or anything like that, or anybody ever talking about it. I just remember seeing it in the video store and seeing Rick Mayall's face and being like, "Oh, we like Rick Mayall, so you go and you pick up a Rick Mayall movie," because you don't see him in a lot of American movies before or after. So yeah. So this was like the one chance, really.
And I had read too that initially that Carlos Davis and Anthony Fingleton, who were writers on this, had wanted to set it in the UK somewhere, but Rick Mayall was trying to break into sort of like international and American cinema, so he wanted to push it away from that and do something that was a little bit more American. But maybe at the time, like specifically that style of humor was a little bit too intense, where I think if you look back on it now, it doesn't really feel like it's this crazy thing that is completely not from this world. But as we had talked about a little bit, it doesn't really line up with the other kinds of sort of family films of, I guess, something that would maybe be fairly close to the timing and the general tone would be something like Mrs. Doubtfire.
Yeah, for sure.
But that has the benefit of having Robin Williams and having this sort of like very heartfelt story attached to it, but also being a little bit zany, but it still operates sort of within the comedic lanes that Robin Williams had already established for himself and that people were familiar with. So it didn't become this completely bonkers thing that it could have been had you gone in a different direction with the actor or with the writers, perhaps.
Yeah, I mean, I think is the little girl that's in the movie the same little girl in Mrs. Doubtfire?
Ashley Peldon? I don't think so. Although
she is, I thought it was her. I just thought
in this movie in particular.
Yeah, she's good.
I don't think it was her. But
I thought it was just because I'd seen a bit of Mrs. Doubtfire recently, so I was like, "Is that the same girl?"
It's the only thing I've ever seen her in is this, but it's still at this point one of my favorite child performances in all of cinema, just because she gets to like have fun and curse and sort of like be a very antithetical character to the stuff that we see in American cinema for kids. Like for the most part, there was stuff like Lost Boys and, you know, the Goonies and stuff where it's like they allowed these characters to have more sort of adult oriented storylines, and they get into a little bit of that. Or when Shane Black did Monster Squad, like that's a little bit more adult, even though I love that movie too. Even though that's really like a story about kids, like this, I mean, Ashley Peldon couldn't have been older than like 7 or 8 years old in this. And within the first few minutes she's cursing and she's just like laughing and having a great time. So I've always really felt that she was a big part of the reason that this movie was so endearing for me. And maybe it's because I had little sisters too that were, little troublemakers as well. So
I think those scenes are those scenes with her are the ones I remember the most from when I was a younger person, just a kid causing chaos.
Mm-hmm.
And she's I'm sure Rick Mayall encouraged her to go full belt as well. But yeah, that's kind of what when I looked at it again years later, I was surprised how few of those scenes there are with her. Because for me, I thought it was like a lot of the movie was the kind of flashbacks and stuff like that, and then you remember movies in your head a different way. But I think the way the film is shot is kind of funny as well, because it's shot like a bland sort of American feel good family movie, and it's not. You saying it might have been set in England actually makes a lot more sense to me, because it does have that kind of darker vibe to it that maybe a different director would have done some interesting things. But I think the director did want to put darker stuff in there. But yeah,
for me, it feels like it's caught between wanting to really be sort of no holds barred rated R comedy that surrounds this concept, and then also being like, well, we have Phoebe Cates, who's America's sweetheart, and this is also we have like a 6-7-year-old girl here who's going to be one of the primary characters as well. We can't really have it be as unencumbered as we would ultimately like it to be. And part of me, like after the most recent time I watched it, I was like, damn, I really want like a rated R director's cut of this film to see what this movie would have been like had it sort of been actualized to its fullest potential, and to see if that today would still be as, I guess, frowned upon as this movie was 30 years ago at this point.
Yeah, I think a lot of the kind of subtext is something that we've kind of brought to it in recent, as you watch it when you get older, it changes a little bit. And that's kind of what happens in the film too. She sees Fred differently, and she kind of she views what he does differently and stuff like that. But yeah, I do wonder. I mean, they were always talking about a remake, but I don't see them being able to sort of make I guess you could make a good film out of it. I don't know what. There was that Wilfred TV show. I don't know if you ever saw that TV show. And it was kind of a similar thing. He's a dog.
Yeah, I watched like the first season.
It's pretty dark. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want them to remake it and like lose the thing that makes this movie special. Like you could take the general idea and kind of try to make it more serious and maybe get the tone to line up a little bit more closely, so it's not I guess pitchy would be the right word, where it's not, hey, it's a goofy like kids movie for like little kids, and then it's like a very dark adult comedy, and then trying to find the balance of that enough along the way. I kind of like it at being disjointed and having these like two different identities, because that's kind of what the movie is about in the first place. And so if you eliminate those two polar opposites in how the film is told, it really sort of does a disservice to like what's actually happening in the story. So I don't know that I would want to see it remade, but I mean, I would watch it for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I'd be interested in seeing, who could take over the Rick Mayall role that wouldn't just be like a imitation. It'd be kind of tough to do it. Maybe they'd switch gender or something, and they'd get like a female comic, like a Melissa McCarthy or someone like that. Maybe 10 years ago would have been, better, but I don't know.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Not to get into like a, funnier, not to get into a whole tangent about remakes and stuff like that. But yeah.
We'll do that on a different episode of this show. Yeah, I know I put some movies on the wish list that are like remakes that people hated, but mostly because the original is so beloved that like the idea of remaking it is blasphemous in itself. So
yes, yeah,
I would like to sort of like maybe tackle one or two of those and see how that goes, but that's for another time. For now, I'm gonna go back and take a look at this trailer, which I think we're looking at the remastered trailer. Maybe not. Let me see. Oh no, this is not the remastered trailer at all. This is the original New Line trailer from 1991. Before we get to the trailer, it's time for a quick word from our sponsor. If you go to the movies, even on a semi-regular basis, you may have noticed that runtimes have crept way up. Even your standard action movie is clocking in at over 2 hours more often than not these days. Well, the good news is that you don't need to worry about missing a moment of the action anymore, thanks to namby-pamby's super absorbent adult diapers. These ultra-low-profile protective undergarments replace your everyday underwear with space-age material designed for astronauts, so it's very functional where you need it the most, and their odor control technology means that you can feel free to go and nobody'll know. Namby-pambies also come in hand for long road trips or late-night podcast editing marathons. I could be wearing one right now, but even if I was, you wouldn't be able to tell. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the go with namby-pamby's super absorbent adult diapers. And now, back to the show. You see that okay?
Yep.
Honey, why'd you call him Drop Dead Fred?
Because that's his name, Daddy.
Like many small children, Lizzie had an imaginary playmate.
Drop Dead Fred is going to teach me how to cook today.
Someone she could talk to.
Sugar?
Yeah.
Someone she could share with.
Oh, Grandma Bun!
Someone who would never let her down.
No more Drop Dead Fred. Period.
Now Lizzie is all grown up.
To us.
And when her perfect life fell apart,
Charles, I lost my money, my car, my husband.
she didn't get mad.
Drop Dead Fred.
She got Fred.
What, who dropped dead? Drop Dead
Felt
Fred
like
was this imaginary friend that I had as a child.
circus music.
Everybody has strange friends, even you must.
But all mine are alive.
That's not saying much. It's no wonder Charles left you.
Haven't got a husband, got a stupid haircut.
You see, you just don't know how to make a marriage work.
Yeah, this music is wild though.
It's like a. Oh, there we go.
He's back.
Yeah, well, what's wrong with that?
He's back and he's a pervert.
Yeah.
To show her, no matter how bad
Oh, Mikey.
things look now, they can always get infinitely worse.
Drop Dead Fred was way out of control.
Have I got him?
You're dead, little man.
There's nobody there.
It's because
And
he's
Carrie Fisher is great in this.
I don't want
She is,
that
yeah.
imaginary friend anymore.
I read that she auditioned for Elizabeth, but they thought she was too old for the role, so they wrote her in for the
really?
friend. Yeah.
That'd be interesting.
What does that taste like?
Every child should have one, especially when she grows up.
There's a lot of physical humor. There's a lot of sort of like inappropriate humor, but that's definitely what makes. Uh-oh. Did I lose you?
Hey.
And we're back.
Oh, sorry. I don't know what happened there.
I don't know. I was like, oh, he's not here anymore. So
I think maybe we had like a very quick power surge
oh,
because everything just flicked. Sorry about that.
that's okay. But in watching that trailer, like we had talked about a little bit earlier, like who is this geared towards? Like the music is very much like a circus kind of vibe. But you have such a good cast in this movie with Phoebe Cates. I mean, Marsha Mason is great as her mom. Tim Matheson
She's good
as well. Even Ron Eldard, who plays the boyfriend, has gone on to do quite a lot. Like I'd mentioned, Carrie Fisher as well. So you really have like a good cast that gives good performances. So I think like they're on board with the idea. But I mean, yeah, when you see that trailer, who's supposed to go see that movie?
I feel like it is geared towards kids a little bit. I don't know. I mean, I guess like maybe like teenage girls or something. I maybe that's the kind of, because it gave me that kind of Tim Burton Beetlejuice, vibe, definitely. And there's some of that in the film too. I don't know if that's the studio maybe afterwards thinking this is the crowd we're going to gear towards, so we're going to make things like that. But yeah, it's a tough one. I think it's geared towards like a lot of maybe different types, but not one specific. It's definitely not geared towards like teenage boys or whatever, like a superhero movie or something like that. And it's in the 90s, so it's definitely selling itself almost like a quirky comedy, really.
Which I think is fair. I mean, it is a quirky comedy. It's just, yeah, that tone is weird. And I had a friend who he was watching it because we have some other friends, Seth and Michelle, who run Movie Friends, and they were doing like their sub series of like, I don't know, super awesome movies, whatever. And they had a friend come on and do Drop Dead Fred, which I sort of provided like a small audio sample of why I love that movie. But then our other mutual friend was asking a lot of these questions, like, who is this for? Like, why is he such a disgusting pervert? Like all of these like technical questions where I guess if you're watching it for the first time now, it seems very, very strange. Whereas growing up with it and then watching it multiple times from childhood through adulthood, I was sort of able to piece together the underlying connective tissue that maybe isn't there on the surface, because it is jarring. If you don't know who Rick Mayall is, you've never seen him before, and you're watching it for the first time, like as an adult, then I could understand you being very weirded out by what the tone of this movie is. But I think, as I've mentioned, in seeing that you've got a Carrie Fisher who plays her friend and sort of like a surrogate mom figure for her in this way, and you've got Tim Matheson who plays the shitty cheating husband, and then Marsha Mason who plays the controlling mother figure. I mean, this is going to be a comparison that probably pisses a lot of people off, but I feel like this is sort of a funnier version of Carrie, in that it focuses very strongly on the relationship between this abusive mother and what that abuse does to her daughter. And in this case, her daughter's like superpower is maybe having this like personality disorder that allows the like Fred to be part of her life. But I think it is very much a commentary on this abusive maternal relationship, and her father in this, Daniel Garrell, played Nigel. I mean, he's really not in the movie that much, but he is the one between the two parents who is sort of trying to be nice about Fred, and he wants his daughter to be able to like have fun and have an imaginary friend and like not be overly serious about it. But he is also British in the film. So when the design of Drop Dead Fred's character comes into play, he is this guardian, this father figure for Elizabeth. And the first thing I think she says about him in the movie as an adult is that he always looked out for me. And so we run into her first as an adult in this movie, where she gets treated like a doormat. Basically, she gets her purse stole. She gets her purse taken from her. Then she gets her car stolen. Then she gets fired, and her husband leaves her. So, like within the first few minutes of the film, she's at rock bottom as an adult.
She's having a bad day.
She's having a very, very bad day, and that sort of opens the door for her controlling mom to come in and get her hooks in again and be like, okay, well, now you need me. And because you need me, I'm going to start telling you sort of what to do. And her mother has a lot of these ideas of like what it means to be a proper kind of woman in this. And so she wants to imbue that onto her daughter, but her daughter still sort of blames her mom for the dad leaving, but then the mom blames her for the dad leaving. And so it's this weird, very toxic relationship between her and her mother, but that is at the center of why Drop Dead Fred exists in the first place. And so I think if you can latch onto that earlier in the film and sort of accept this as an allegory about abuse and about not comfort, but what is the word I'm looking for? I don't know. I'll figure it out. A coping mechanism. Thank you. I'll edit out all that. Okay, So yeah, if you can buy into this as like Fred being a coping mechanism for her trying to deal with her childhood trauma, I think it becomes a little bit easier to swallow. And like in 1991, therapy was still sort of this thing that was not really accepted on a wide level by the public. I mean, access was difficult, but I mean, one of the better things to come out of COVID, although there hasn't been much, but it has been that people were able to find time to like prioritize their own mental health needs. And so like prioritizing mental health isn't the same thing as like struggling with mental illness. Like it's not just black and white like that. And I think in a case like this, you have this story about this young woman whose mental health has been jeopardized by her mother. And that response is that she basically has an alter ego. And so it's like dissociative personality disorder. And they don't really like get into it too much because I don't think like the public knowledge of it was enough to really sort of get into the details of it in a way that would make for a meaningful delivery in this film. It sort of had to treat it like this magical thing where Fred, like, is he real? Is he not real? But then you see many times throughout the course of the film that, you know, when she starts taking these pills from the psychiatrist, that it actually affects him. So I think there are clear indicators that he is just a figment of her imagination. So for me, it's not like, oh, he's just this genie in a jack-in-the-box that pops up and solves problems for her. He is a part of her personality, which I guess would be the id. He's that part of her personality that looks out for her, stands up for her, fights back for her when she's victimized emotionally or physically.
And he also does what she wants to do. I mean, she wants to get her husband back, and wants to help her. I mean, that's what he's doing for most of the movie. He's trying to help her do the things that she wants to do. And I think it's interesting. I think if that trailer had been made today, you might show more of the relationship between the mom and the daughter. And that might be the kind of that is the central point of the film. I think I agree with you. But I think you would put that out there a little bit more, particularly the mental health stuff and mental health in children, especially. I mean, dealing with kind of kids on the spectrum and kids, you know, that stuff was not really, I know giving drugs to kids is like a major kind of issue a lot of the times. And sometimes, you know, sometimes it's necessary and sometimes it's used just as a way of kind of keeping the kid, you know, relaxed or whatever. And I think that's stuff that wasn't talked about very often back then. And I think this was definitely a film that wanted to kind of, I mean, it does deal with those things. It does deal with the idea of kids with mental health issues and giving kids drugs that don't really solve the issues at all because the issues are emotional and traumatic. And I think you said something that I wanted to point out also, which was that the mom is a really interesting character in terms of she only has one way of being a mother. She doesn't really understand any other ways of being a mother. And she's trying to turn her daughter into the same thing. And the film does a really good job of at near the end of the movie, you know, when they have it out and they have a falling out and she kind of is about to leave, but she comes back and hugs her. And I really like that moment where she understands that her mother doesn't have the capacity to understand what's going on with her. And she kind of is also traumatized herself, probably. And I think the father gets off pretty scot-free in this film, which is good.
I mean, he gets arrested.
He just leaves.
Yeah.
Oh, he gets arrested at one point. Yeah.
Then he leaves.
He just leaves and never contacts his daughter again, even as an adult, which I think is, you know, a questionable thing to a certain degree.
For sure.
You know, within the context of the film.
Yeah, I also think that there's sort of a dismissive kind of understanding of like a child's capacity. So in the 90s, especially, there was this thing where you're not like this mother character doesn't even like you said, she doesn't have the capacity. There's zero understanding on her part that her sort of behavior in this is negatively affecting her child. And she argues with her husband a lot. And there was this kind of like mentality around like, oh, she's just a kid, like she'll get over it, or like they don't really know what's going on. But kids are very, very adept at picking up on stuff like that. Yeah. And your brain is learning at a much faster rate when you're younger. So I think this movie actually shows pretty well that this young girl is sort of like passively learning about what's going on in her parents' relationship without necessarily ever confronting them. Like you'll see in movies now where child characters will be portrayed as like having a hard time at school because their parents are getting divorced. And like that's way more on the front foot now than it ever used to be. And so a similar backstory is happening here, where these two parents are like struggling to coexist. They have very different parenting styles, and they treat their daughter very differently. And we don't see how any of this plays out with the daughter as a child, like in her existence as a child. We see Drop Dead Fred, but it's like she's never at school having a tough time with it. She's never like in the counselor's office having a tough time with it. So the portrayal of like that whole kind of storytelling is much, much different now than it used to be. And I think in the 90s, I mean, we were starting to get to the point where I guess divorce was more common and you would see it in media more often. But now we're at the point where divorce and issues with your parents are like almost necessary to any story you're going to tell about a kid in high school to some degree. I mean, I just saw Bottoms a couple weeks ago, and that definitely has some issues with those particular parents, although it's not like the story.
Mm-hmm. But there's also now there's a framework to understand parents and kids have a framework to understand divorce and what happens to kids during divorce and what happens to everybody. And, you know, back then it was a little bit more people kind of feeling it out. People didn't talk about it a little bit more. I mean, where I'm from, people definitely didn't talk about it.
Right.
It was not something that it was like a shameful thing almost to get a divorce or something like that. So, I mean, divorce wasn't legalized in Ireland until when was it? I was alive, so it was it was like the 90s.
Not only like shameful, but outright illegal.
It was literally illegal. Yeah, you could separate, but you couldn't get divorced. So I remember divorce getting legalized actually, and stuff like that wasn't talked about. You know, to stuff like what happens to the family. It would just be either the kids go with the mom or the kids go with the dad, and that's it. But what that does to your kid, and especially if you have a child who's very in touch with their emotions or very, you know, aware of what's going on around them and seeing how other people act. And I think it's interesting at the end of the film when you see is it Mikey, her new partner,
Mickey.
Sorry, yeah, and Drop Dead Fred is with his kid now.
Yeah,
and the indication is that there must be something going on there too. That his child is unhappy and she's acting out and she's doing also a child of divorce, but you know, he's portrayed as a very nice character, a very kind of perfect, kind of bit dull, but you know, super nice guy, and
he's safe,
stuff like that. He's a safe guy, yeah. And it's interesting because she meets him at the courthouse and he just got custody of his daughter, and it's like, well, that's kind of rare, I guess, for the father to get full custody. So something is going on in the background there that I'm kind of interested in knowing about.
The sequel that we never got, but
the sequel that we never got, yeah.
You had mentioned how Elizabeth hugs her mother because she understands that, like, by the time she's gotten to this point in the film and this point in the story, she understands that her mother just doesn't have the capacity for affection. And that's something that I pointed to a lot in my notes, is that there is no affection. And because of that, Elizabeth has very low self-esteem because her dad left and she's left with her mom, who just doesn't love her in any kind of like active way. And there's a line early on, and I'm not sure if it was like the mud pie thing or if a little bit before that, where she tells her, I think she was like tucking her into bed, and she rejects her daughter's advance for physical affection. She says cuddling is for teddy bears. So for that to come full circle, and for her to then sort of like throw that out the window and be like, I'm going to hug you anyway, because I do have the capacity to care, and I'm going to show you that I care, and I'm going to do it in a way that has this physical embrace that Elizabeth's character has been lacking for all this time. So I really like that it comes full circle in that way. And you know, that whole end of the film is like, it's not a coincidence that this all ends up back in her childhood home. It's like this nightmare vision of her home, and her childhood self is literally like bound and strapped to the bed, and she has to do the work of breaking this child free of those bonds. So I think, like, having seen it multiple times going into the most recent time I had seen it, it's much more clear to me that this is really a story about like allowing her her inner child to heal and to be free and to be the person that she wants to be without it having to come with these particular caveats in order to like have her mother's affection.
And she's always for sure, she's always like blaming herself as well. She's and that's, she has to forgive herself before she can kind of work on any other kind of relationship. I mean, her interactions with her husband or husband, right?
Yeah, I think it is her husband.
Yeah, are just, she will just forgive him anything. I mean, and she's just a total doormat for him, and he just completely takes advantage of that. And the mother supports that too. They kind of team up together at some point and to get her back into the child psychologist's office. And I think that's the film is saying, you have to kind of heal yourself before you can kind of move on in your life and help with other people or forgive other people. Even you can't you'll hold on to the anger and the resentment, and that's what she's doing in the film. She doesn't like her mother. She kind of hates her mother, but it's only at the end of the film where she decides to maybe stop being angry with her and like let her go a little bit. So she has to find some friends, obviously, maybe a drop dead friend.
Yeah. And like you had said, like her self-esteem like basically just doesn't exist. She's a doormat. I mean, she's even dressed almost like a doll, like a sort of like one of those collector's doll that like you sit on the shelf. She has like sort of like the lace thing around like the collar, and it's just it's all long sleeve. It's all the way down to the floor. So she's like dressed in a very, very particular manner. When
girl next door kind of and she's surrounded by people who are not like that. She's surrounded by Carrie Fisher is a strong short hair, suits, heels. Lives in a boathouse.
Lives in a boathouse. Yeah, she's having an affair with her boss. Or
yeah, it's just like whatever. Yeah, I like that Carrie Fisher's character just totally accepts Drop Dead Fred. When her friend tells her, "Hey, I see a man and he's chaotic and he does terrible things," and she's like, "Okay, I believe you." And it's like, oh, okay, that's a good friend. That's just she's still trying to help her.
She's a fantastic friend in this.
Yeah.
she sinks her houseboat, and she's still like, okay, we're fine. Don't worry, I'll collect the insurance.
These things happen. Yeah.
I mean, when she first sort of invades her home because she doesn't have anywhere else to go, Carrie Fisher is in the process of like having her one night of sex with this guy whose wife is out of town.
Yeah.
And so she's like, okay, well, I'm gonna not have sex for the one night a month that I'm able to get it in order to help you out here. So
yeah,
they established very early on that she's a very good friend, and like you said, she doesn't dismiss her when she says she has this imaginary friend. She's like, okay, well, like, let's figure this out. And she even like tries to fight Fred in some moments. It makes for some interesting comedy there. But I think it's important that like her only friend is actually a very good friend. It's not this person that's dismissive of her. And then Mickey too sort of is like willing to sort of entertain the idea, and he just is like, you're fun and you're crazy and you're all the things that I liked from when you were a kid. So he's on board. But Elizabeth's own insecurity is so strong that when she hits rock bottom, she's back in her mom's house, and then she like first opens the box where she sort of lets Fred out. The first thing that Fred says to her is like, you're older and you're uglier than you were. So it's like, it's just reflecting all of the insecurities that she's had within herself this whole time, that when her id is unleashed, the first thing is like, oh, well, like you're less than you used to be. So she doesn't view herself with any value. And I think it just like it sets off the whole story from there, because she's just like trying to inch her way back to like having some sense of self, some self value, where she doesn't end up, being treated like crap by Charles. But, Tim Matheson is actively cheating on her in the very beginning.
Yeah.
At the start, he never is a good husband to her. Yeah. So we never even see what's worth fighting for, which only reinforces how low her self-esteem is.
Yeah. And it's only when Fred kind of sees for himself kind of what the husband is doing that he does want her to stand up for herself. I mean, that's what he's trying to get her to do throughout the entire film with everybody, is to just stand up for yourself, tell them how you really feel, even if how you really feel isn't going to impress anybody, or if they don't like it. And that's what he kind of gets her to do by the end of it. I find it interesting that her imaginary friend is like this kind of gross boy. He's like a young boy who's just like disgusting. He's like makes lewd jokes and is like stupid and putting a snot everywhere. He's just a gross boy, and she's always been told to be a nice little girl. So girls are supposed to be obedient and boys are supposed to be rebellious, and that's kind of how a lot of kids are. That's the sort of gender divide and how kids are raised a lot of times. And I find it interesting that her manifestation of her strong side is this kind of boy character or man character that will take out these. It's kind of in opposition to the female the good little girl kind of vibe that she's got going on there.
Yeah, because her mom is trying to put her in this box of like, you're a good little girl that behaves and dresses nice, and like you hit all of these particular sort of like tent poles that make you grow up to be the woman that I want you to be, kind of thing. And really, yeah, she wants to like be gross and like pick her nose and flick boogers, and she wants to make mud pies. And the first thing she does when she's back at her mom's house is like Fred shows up and he goes outside and steps in a bunch of dog shit. And then
the dog shit scene, it's so disgusting.
But when she walks into the house, her mom is like, okay, well, your room's upstairs just the way you left it, and then don't go into the living room like I just had the carpets cleaned. It's all very white, very sterile, and it's just this very visual example of her mother's kind of like sterile control. And so it's not a coincidence that the very first thing that happens is she's not only making a mess, but she's literally smearing shit all over the rug. And then like her mom's face in the morning is so great, though. She's like, why, Elizabeth?
I just love Fred coming in on a handstand. Like he's not going to get in the hallway, but he's going to wait till he gets into the room so he can get the most onto the couches and the floor and everything. And he's like on the couch. I remember just being grossed out by that a lot. Yeah, and the snot stuff, which is what my sister used to do to me after we saw this movie. She was inspired by Fred, that she would do that. She would pick her nose and then smear it on my face, or try to anyway.
I mean, she loves you.
Yeah, I guess. I think she still tries to do it sometimes.
Well, and reading about the Blu-ray anniversary, there was a lot of, I guess, deleted scenes that were like worse than that, where I guess like he like spits on her face or like on her head or something.
So I want to see that
Blu-ray with that.
I could have sworn when I watched the movie there was a description of one scene that was he picked his nose and he flicks it into her cup of coffee or something. I was like, I could have sworn I saw that scene. I was like, maybe I got like a different version of it or something. I don't know, but sometimes they have like weird different versions in different territories and stuff like that, where certain things are included and certain things aren't.
Yeah, I think when I'm done with this, I'm going to have to see if I can find that Blu-ray for a reasonable price and then spoil myself with that. But how do you feel about doing a little bit of trivia? I know we talked about a couple of these things, but why not? Let's do some trivia.
Time for trivia.
Okay, so question number 1. Who was director Ate de Jong's first choice to play Elizabeth?
Oh. 1990. Let's see. Was it like Winona Ryder or something?
It was Winona Ryder.
There you go.
Bingo.
Yeah, there's the Beetlejuice stuff again.
Exactly. Yeah, I guess like, she had done Heathers and Beetlejuice and something else around that time too that I can't quite put my finger on, but she sort of had that vibe. And then I guess when she auditioned, they thought she was too young. So I think her agent ended up passing on it, but she did audition for the role. So oddly enough, yes, Winona Ryder.
Yeah.
Question number 2, you might know this one. Which Batman director was originally offered the script but declined?
Oh yeah, that was Tim Burton.
That was Tim Burton. This does have very Tim Burton. Also has a little bit of like Danny Elfman energy to it as well, especially
the music
in
in
that
the trailer.
Music.
Yeah.
It was not Danny Elfman that ultimately did the music for this. I don't have it pulled up right now, but Randy Edelman.
Okay. Yeah.
So not Danny Elfman, but it also has some Randy Newman vibes at times too. So I can see that if you're watching a movie and you're relying on some of the musical cues or the score to sort of tell you how you're supposed to feel or sort of nudge you in that direction, like this movie is all over the map with that. So you never know how you're supposed to feel based on the music. You're like, I don't, am I supposed to be laughing here? This is very traumatizing. That's
a classic studio fix as well, isn't it? To like, to put like random music and edits into the movie to try and fix the end and stuff like that.
But like maybe if we punch it up with enough of this music, we can sell it as a kids movie.
It's jaunty.
And then, exactly. The perfect word for it. And the third and final question we're going to get to is, in which American city does Drop Dead Fred actually take place?
Oh, that I don't know actually. Chicago?
Close. It's in Minnesota. So they chose something that's kind of like in that Midwest. I think it's like still Rust Belt. And they wanted it because it wasn't identifiable in a way that New York or San Francisco or LA was. So it had the vibe of just like an everyday American kind of city. So that like, it just implies that like this story, that as crazy as it is probably happening to a lot more kids than you're willing to acknowledge. And it is something that's a lot more American than you may be willing to acknowledge as well. And so I've talked, I did that episode on RoboCop, and we've talked in Film Club also about like a movie like Three Billboards, where you have I think it's a British filmmaker coming in doing an American movie, and RoboCop you have Verhoeven, who's Dutch, and I think De Jong is Dutch as well. And
he's Dutch. Yeah.
So it's like the value of something like outsider art and how difficult it is to sort of navigate that. Because like you mentioned, in the UK or in Ireland, divorce wasn't legalized until the 90s. So it's this thing that's very taboo. It's legal in the US in the 90s, but like you're coming out of the 80s where you're having a lot of films that are portraying like the nuclear family, maybe troubled, maybe not, but you're still like relying on that framework. And so
it definitely wasn't normalized as divorce, I think, anywhere really at that point.
So to have a Dutch filmmaker come in and then to not just like tell this story with a fairly well-known, famous British comedian, and then to set it in like an everyday America and have this be this very American story, I think for me works very well. But I could understand definitely having some resistance to why this story is happening seemingly ahead of its time, because now 30 years down the line, when you talk about things like personality disorders or dissociative identity disorder, like that's almost what's going on here with her character. So like the language wasn't there to support it. I don't think the footprint in the public eye was there to really support this film being successful. But interesting that it's a Dutch filmmaker coming in telling the story, and then 30 years later seeing that like, hey, this is actually pretty accurate if you're willing to give it credit.
It happens with a lot of like Verhoeven movies, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Where he brings that kind of energy to it, where there's something else going on underneath, and it takes a few years for it to be kind of understood. I mean, Showgirls is the obvious one, but yeah,
Starship Troopers is the
other one. Yeah.
Very much so.
Where when you first watch it, you're like, this is just an alien action movie. And then you kind of get the subtext a little bit more. So yeah, for when I was watching the movie, I just thought it was the American suburbs. That's what it was to me. It was just some nice, middle class place in America. Didn't really matter where, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I guess like a good comparison would be like Ferris Bueller's Day Off, right? Like he's coming from a well-off family. Like he's got, the latest technology in his room. They've got a nice house in a nice neighborhood, yet he's like rebelling just for the sake of rebelling as a teenager. Whereas like this film is like this young girl has her sort of like family structure torn apart at a very young age. And then she has her only friend, the only person that really stands up for her, sort of like getting locked away, and then she is just like sort of like stamped and rolled out by her mother into the world as like what her mom thinks she's supposed to be, but she's not happy. She's got no self-esteem. And so when we finally meet her as an adult, it's like when all this stuff has come crashing down, like what really matters. And it's her recovery of herself that is really where the story is. It's not really about Fred. He's, like I said, he's not a genie, despite coming out of the Jack in the Box. There really isn't any magic happening here. It's just like that voice in your head telling you to really like, okay, turn the corner, stand up for yourself, sort of get your life back.
It is kind of like a coming of age film, except that she's coming of age as an adult. I mean, her mom has been kind of put her in this box her entire life, as you said, and that's what she's kind of trying to free herself from, is that which does happen to people. I mean, they spend their lives, their parents are kind of running their lives, or they make decisions based on what other people tell them, and that's kind of what Elizabeth has to do in the movie, is she has to sort of stand up for herself, and she has to become an adult and let go of not just childhood stuff, good stuff that she likes, like Fred, but also like childhood trauma and childhood, relationships with her parents and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I think also Fred, in the way that he reacts to Charles, she tries to sort of like contextualize why she loves Charles, and like she doesn't really have an answer for that. And so Fred,
she's supposed to. Yeah,
exactly. And so like Fred is very much aware of that, which is why he doesn't like Charles. But he says to Elizabeth very early on, like, I can't leave until you're happy. So it seems like, okay, he's a genie. He's supposed to like grant her 3 wishes to make her happy. But really, it's like, no, this is a part of yourself that will not be quiet until you're actually doing the things that make you happy. And so it's, as weird as Fred is, he's really there to like ensure that she's okay and that she is being the version of herself that makes her happy, because he's just reintroduced to her like, oh, wow, you grew up and like you like all of your decisions you hate, you have no self-esteem. Like
you
just
learn
becoming
nothing from me.
Yeah, you're just becoming another little mega beast, as he says.
Yeah. Well, the first time he says it, he calls her a mega bitch. He calls the mom a mega bitch. And I remember that's like disconcerting. Yeah, it's like, oh, okay. Yeah, they were apparently only allowed 2.
Bitch, though.
She's a mega bitch in the film. Yeah.
I wanted to ask you though, like, had Phoebe Cates played both roles, like if she were herself, but then also like the Drop Dead Fred version of herself, like, is that an easier pill? Like, it's way more laid out for you as the audience that way. Like, there's a very clear correlation that like this is her, this is her other personality. And I think like she's capable of playing both, but I think if it were shown like that, you could have almost the exact same movie and it would be way easier for people to sort of like get on board with what the core concept of the film is.
Yeah, perhaps. Yeah, because I think the film, for me, Fred is an entity. He is like he's not just a figment of our imagination. He does kind of exist. He's sort of like that's what I was going to say. He's like a quantum leap. Yeah. You ever watch that Quantum Leap show? He's got to go and fix something before he can leave. It's kind of like that. And then when they go to the child psychologist office, you've got these other Freds. You've got these other great characters. And one of them is terrifying looking. But they exist for other kids as well. So he's clearly, they do exist within the universe as their own entities a little bit, and they're maybe they assign themselves to these unhappy kids. But it also works in the sense that he is a figment of her imagination. He's making her do things that she wants to do but doesn't really want to do. He is her aid, I guess, to a certain degree. So the film does do kind of play it both ways, and you might be right that it would have been better to just do one or the other. Yeah.
I mean, I
also like that. That's what makes it weird. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that frenetic energy to it. And I think like when you have a guy like Rick Mayall, like you want his physical comedy, you want sort of his dry delivery on some of the jokes, you want his personality to be part of this film. And it is a big part of the reason why the film is enjoyable, is because watching him just be a weirdo is enjoyable. And like Phoebe Cates basically is like very narrowly scoped in this movie, where she just has to be there to like be the sounding board for Fred's weirdness and for her mom's bitchiness and for Charles's disgustingness. And
it's
for
a bit of
Carrie Fisher's kind of weird.
Carrie Fisher, when she's smoking and jogging at the same time.
It's like, hold on. The endorphins are going to kick in.
Having the time of her life. Yeah.
Best very, very life. 90s too, to where like, oh, I can smoke a pack a day, but as long as I jog, I'm still healthy.
Yeah. She's living the high life. Yeah. But you're right that Phoebe Cates, it's a bit of a thankless role. I think maybe they would have punched it up a little if it was someone like Winona Ryder, because, you know, she's got that kind of more weird brand to her. But yeah, she pretty much has to just kind of sit there and while Rick Mayall kind of does all of his stuff. So it was probably a difficult role to kind of play a little bit because it's so straight.
Yeah, and I think when we see her and Mickey when they go out to lunch and they're in that building that like overlooks the city, and Fred is there, and they're doing the whole like Fred is inserting himself into their lunch. He's like physically manipulating her body, but they have to shoot this with both that happening and then without Fred in the scene as well. And so I think you really get a good look at how strong of a physical comedian Phoebe Cates could be given the opportunity, because that scene is hilarious. It's one of my favorite scenes in the movie. She just like throws her plate across the restaurant. She like pours her drink in her lap. She's playing peekaboo with the napkin, as they showed us in the trailer. I think she's capable of the sort of performance being like that outlandish at times. But yeah, she's really restrained for the most part because she has to be, in order to allow everybody else to be as like colorful and ridiculous as they need to be in this story.
You kind of wish that she took more pleasure in what she was doing at some points or something like that. Like as a kid, you know, when they made the mud pie, she loves the mud pie, and she makes another mud pie at the end of the movie, which is insane that he even the whole scene is like, if your wife presented you a mud pie and it's spraying hot mud onto your pants, and he's just like, oh yeah, make a salad. I gotta go make a phone call. Like it's like nothing is wrong or something.
And then she says, okay, I'm gonna make a nice romantic dinner salad. I was like, romantic dinner salad.
I feel like the evening's ruined. And maybe, you know,
you can't save this with salad.
Yeah. Desperately making it, you know.
Yeah. But yeah, Charles, his character, who's played, you know, very smarmy but excellently by Tim Matheson, he's very good in this, and his character is, I mean, disgusting on multiple levels. Like he treats her like crap. He's cheating on her when we first meet him. Like I think because she goes into the courtroom, she's like, yeah, I lost my husband and my car and my purse. So within the first couple of minutes, like we already know that their relationship is on the outs. And then it's her mom that's like trying to reel him back in and sort of promise her that like, no, she's the good girl. She's going to do what I say. And I think they run into each other sort of at that like benefit event where she goes with Fred and he's with Bridget Fonda. And we go from one scene where he's with Bridget, and then the next scene he's telling her, you need me to protect you from men like me, even though he's doing the exact disgusting thing that makes him the kind of person that he's saying that he needs to protect her from.
Yeah, I never quite got what his, you know, why he wants to go. Is it just to control, that he can control Elizabeth and that's it? Because it's, you know, it's not, I don't know, it's a family rich or something. It's like, I don't know what keeps him in he could just cheat on her and then, you know, leave her. I don't know what it is that keeps bringing him back, that he wants to like control her like that. It's just some sort of weird, you know, horrific thing that, you know, a man will do, I guess.
Yeah. And he has like a weird relationship with her mom. So maybe there is some family money, and it's kind of this thing of like, oh, if you take care of my daughter, I'll take care of you kind of thing. But in a conversation with Polly, who is Marsha Mason, that's Elizabeth's mom, she says to him, she's just a child. And Charles says that he's an adult. Just the implication there of like, I know my daughter is a child and I'm still kind of like selling her off to this older man who is already having an affair. Like, it's just super, super gross. And the way he calls her Annabella is always just very weird.
Yeah, there's
like,
something very off about that character. That's just
yeah.
Well, he rhymes it at one point, doesn't he? Annabella something.
Yeah, I think that's Bridget Fonda's name, but like he says that when he's in this moment.
Sorry, yeah.
He's in this moment with Phoebe Cates and
I'm
like
your fella Annabella.
Right. And when he's trying to get her back on the phone, yeah, he's such a scumbag, but Matheson plays that role so damn well that it's really really tough to like. I mean, he's smarmy and he's gross, but he's excellent at it. So it's like it's a role that I like, but also that I don't. Those are typically like good performances.
Yeah, they're fun. They're fun to play, I'm sure.
Yeah, Marsha Mason sort of like, I don't know, reminds me of was it Throw Mama from the Train? Is that the one?
Yeah. I mean, I've seen it a long time. Yeah.
Yeah. So you get this like this weird sort of like parental energy from both like her husband and her mom. And then, I mean, Fred's not trying to really like be a parent. Carrie Fisher's not trying to be a parent. They're like trying to buoy her self-reliance. And so like, that's what it is. You got these two characters on one side that are trying to lift her up and have her be her own person. I mean, you could throw Mickey in the mix as well. Although he's just like, I've had a crush on you since childhood. And basically like, I don't care how crazy you are or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm just here for
Mickey
the ride.
sucks. I don't know. I just like, she can do better than Mickey. My God.
She probably can, and she might at some point. But like I said, he's the safe guy in this equation.
Yeah.
You know, even though he's already divorced and has a child at like 20 something. And so there's a whole secondary backstory going on over there. But I just feel like this movie has a lot more to it in terms of its depth and its substance than it gets credit for, but also it has all of sort of the slapstick kind of like funny elements that I actually really enjoy. And one of those is I think like Fred is screwing with her in the mall, and there's like a 5-piece like small orchestra out there. There's like a violinist who Fred is messing with her, and Phoebe is like, she's trying to get Fred to stop, and she's like just fed up with him, and she approaches him, but it's really this violinist. And so you see the violinist who's just like terrified before Phoebe starts walloping her with the purse. And it's like, this is kind of like a really scary moment for this one like background actor. Yeah. So like she has to really be afraid. And it's this moment where, hey, like, regardless of whether or not you have an imaginary friend, like you're being violent towards just random people in public, like this isn't a good thing. But the whole way that this is set up is done in a way that I think allows the audience to both experience what it's like to be on the outside of it. And it's very subtle because for the most part, the way that all of the other characters that are like aware of Fred, but not willing to indulge his existence, like her mom and her husband. In this case, you get just like this random person at a mall that is like the victim of this violent outburst from Elizabeth in this case. And that's not something that really like aligns with the tone that we've established from Fred or the tone that we've established from any of these other characters. So it's a very just like real moment all of a sudden in the middle of the movie where it's like, yeah, you're like losing your mind maybe, and you're fed up. And
things are getting worse.
Yeah, things are getting really bad here. And then, you know, I think it culminates with the houseboat as well. Like the fact that she was confident enough to be like, hey, you know what? I can drive this houseboat. And she just turns it on, is like, let me chase him was he in a speedboat or something? And she just thought she was going to be able to run him down in this like old casino style houseboat.
And Fred just wants to press the button. He's just like a little kid. He's like, let me just do it.
Yep. He's got no idea. So that's exactly what he's got to do. But he's Fred. So he's going to push the button that he's not supposed to push.
What's your favorite Fred moment? Do you have a favorite like outfit? I love his outfit when he goes to the ball He's got his formal Fred outfit. It's like great.
Yeah, it's almost a very like Wizard of Oz like with the sort of the way that the lollipop kids dress, where they're creepy, but they also like have these very sort of nice and colorful
or the Oompa
tuxedos on.
Loompas. He's got the hair.
He does, yeah.
Up hair. Yeah.
I think, I mean, one of my favorite moments was when he gets his head stuck in the fridge.
Yeah,
because it's just a really good moment of practical effects, and it
looks great.
Creepy. Yeah, and he's got to like sort of figure out that, and it doesn't cut corners in the way that some of the other ones do, like where he sneezes and he's sort of like bouncing around the house using very limited digital effects at the time, or however they did that. But yeah, I think probably the fridge, because you get like several moments where you have a lot of creativity allowed with how they design him, and like they have obviously like some fake rubber neck where he's first like stretching his neck out trying to get it out of the fridge, and then when it finally pops free, he's got this giant like Hey Arnold style flattened head. So I really love that. And then of course the scene where they make the mud pies. I love that scene because it's it's such a mess, and then the cornflakes gag and how they're spraying cornflakes all over the place.
There's the woman who's just hit with a bunch of paint. You know, she's just doing gardening. It's
Grandma.
Like a bucket of paint just right in her face. I was like, wow, that looks like kind of painful. I don't know.
Yeah,
for the actor.
Just get hit with a gallon of paint right in the face. And I think that was somebody's mom. It was one of the crew. It might have even been the director's mom or one of the writer's mom. But hey, you want to be in my movie and get a bucket of paint thrown in your face? Be like, okay.
Well,
so hey,
it's immortalized in cinema now.
Yeah. Now's probably a good time to go to Critics Corner. We can see all of the what was it, a 25% on the, where did I put those? So many tabs open. Come on, they're somewhere in here. All right, I'll just.
I will say one other thing I like about the film actually is that right at the end, you do get a really emotional Rick Mayall moment. And having seen a lot of his stuff, he very rarely like acts, acts regularly. You rarely see him just like with a straight face. He's usually playing kind of a character or kind of very animated, and it's one of the few times that you actually see him just kind of be quiet. And for me, it's very affecting, actually, that last scene where he's trying to help Elizabeth.
Yeah, it's like everything is toned down.
He looks like Robert Smith from The Cure for some reason. That's what I was thinking of when he was in the doorway.
Yeah.
So you kind of look like a sad Cure song right now.
And he's very sincere. And then if you were able to sort of and if you're able to understand that what it really is like Elizabeth is embracing herself. She's hugging herself, and she's like performing the act of actually loving herself for really the first time since childhood. Like, it makes that moment a lot more powerful. And I think that's something that both Rick and Phoebe Cates understood in that moment. But also, like, if you don't pick up on all this other stuff, you're like, well, why is she like kissing her non-romantic love interest imaginary friend on the lips? Yeah. So it is very weird in that way if you don't accept that like this is really an act of her loving herself, because in that shot, like as they kiss and then embrace, like he dissolves and she's left just hugging herself, and I'm like, this is exactly what this scene is supposed to mean. But if you take it like a little bit too literally, it's like, oh, was she supposed to be in love with him this whole time? Like, it brings in a weird question that shouldn't be there. Okay. Let's go to Critics Corner and see. This is, like I said, is a 25 Metascore. Oh, it has a 0. So there's been a few movies that I've read where there's a 0 review. So, and this is Owen Gleiberman. Occasionally writes some good reviews, but I do quote him a lot here because Entertainment Weekly is often featured. And he gave it a 0. He says, as the naughty ghost pal of Phoebe Cates, an obnoxious British actor named Rick Mayall is like Michael Keaton's Beetlejuice without the juice. In Drop Dead Fred, all he does is smash and spill things and say many, many potty words. So yeah, this is a guy, or this is, I don't know if he was just having a bad day, but it seems like he went to this movie with a stick up his ass. So Owen, you got to chill out, because
didn't take to Rick Mayall's comedy.
Didn't. I don't know who this guy is, but he's obnoxious, and he's a.
I mean,
he's a ghost. No, he's not a ghost, sir. So
I mean, I think Fred is supposed to be a little bit obnoxious. I think that's the whole kind of idea. He's like a
Exactly.
punk. He's like a guy who kind of kicks the cans over.
And when part of the criticism is he says too many potty words, it's like, you're an adult man writing for Entertainment Weekly. You should be able to handle some potty words. And this movie is still PG-13, so it's really not that bad. What does he say? He said bitch. I think that's the worst thing he says in the whole movie. So
yeah, he says it like twice. I think that's probably it.
Okay. So Owen, you can chill out, my man. But we'll probably read another quote of his at some point on a different movie. The next one up the ladder is a 25 from the Baltimore Sun. There is no name attached to this, but it says this film is in desperate need of flow. It plays like a collection of bits, skits that have been thrown together with little eye to continuity. So, I mean, I think at least he understands that the humor is coming from a place of sort of Rick Mayall enjoying making skits. And that,
I think that's a fair enough criticism to say
Yeah.
it feels a little like disjointed and like a bunch of skits for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair at least. I mean, he didn't even say it's horrible. Like, that's way better than the zero. So I'll take that and say that, hey, you know what? Maybe it's disjointed, but you secretly liked it. We've got we've got a 30 from the New York Times. Is Stephen Holden says Drop Dead Fred wants to be an offbeat cross between Harvey and Beetlejuice, but it's more like a shrill, interminable episode of I Dream of Jeannie. So again, I think you sort of misunderstanding that, like, this is not a genie. This isn't a ghost, as I've seen, as Mr. Gleiberman said as well. So I think a big part of the issue with this movie is people sort of not being able to grasp that this is an allegory for coping with abuse. And it doesn't necessarily come right out and say it. Like, you have to do the work, and you may even have to do it more than once. Cause I saw this as a kid, and then I rewatched it like probably when I was an adolescent, and then again in my early 20s, and then again, maybe a month or two ago. So this is a movie that I've watched probably at least 10 times throughout the course of my life. So it's a movie that I know pretty well. But even when I had heard before I watched it most recently that the criticisms of this were still in place, before I watched it, I was sitting down with my fiance telling her, like, oh no, like, this is a movie about trauma and about like dealing with like your parents and how they sort of like impact your formative years, and then how that relationship changes and where you start to strike the balance of becoming yourself and not being just a clone of your parents. So it's something that I was maybe more aware of because I saw it a bunch, but at the same time, like,
when you're watching it for the first time, it's maybe you're
tough.
expecting a bit more from maybe from that. I wonder if the film had a stronger like visual aesthetic. Would that have helped? I mean, maybe to Tim Burton, kind of, not necessarily Tim Burton, but the fact that he does have a strong visual style. And I think if you maybe had a director with a stronger visual style, would that have helped audiences understand these things a little bit more? But then you've got Rick Mayall just being Rick Mayall, and it's like you kind of have to, how do you work that into it without, conflicting or making it feel weird? I don't know if Rick Mayall can exist in a Tim Burton universe. It would just be jarring.
I know, it's a good point. I mean, Tim Burton would have brought the built-in audience, which would have allowed more people to see this, which probably would have been a good thing. But yeah, having come from Beetlejuice 2, you would hope that there would be room for Rick Mayall to exist as this character. But I don't know if Tim Burton has ever, if he could set something in as plain of a setting as Minnesota and have it work like that. Because like even Edward Scissorhands is very like manicured and colorful, like in suburbia,
stylized suburb,
very gothic up on the hill where he lives in this like dark and monotone castle.
Yeah.
Okay. And we got 3 40s on the board from Time Out, from TV Guide magazine, and from Empire. So I will let you choose any of those 3, and we'll go with that one.
I used to read Empire, actually, so let's do that one.
Angie Erigo maybe. There is scarcely a laugh to be had unless you are 6 years old or immoderately fond of such wheezes as depositing dog poop on a white carpet. Well, I am a fan.
I don't understand.
Yeah, it's very I feel attacked by this review is what I'll say. But yeah, it's like, look, I forgot who I was talking to, but I was like, I'm almost 40 and I'll still laugh at fart jokes. I still think they're funny.
Yeah.
If my dog is asleep on the couch and she has like an audible fart, I'll still laugh. And yeah, it's funny. It's always going to be funny to me. And I don't need this movie to like have highbrow humor. Like, I understand what this movie is. It's okay to have like snot face and boogers and fart jokes and dog poop and all that. So
and the point is that he is supposed to be gross. I mean, it is kind of like what they're trying to get at, because they're just trying to push Elizabeth out of her comfort zone.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to have that little bit of
and his character
to it.
And his character was forged in the fire of her childhood trauma. So of course he's a child because he doesn't grow. He became that part of her personality when she was like 6 or 7. So yes, it makes sense, but I understand that people are just like, yeah, I'm above this movie kind of thing.
Yeah. But he is the opposite of her. I mean, she's supposed to be clean and tidy and dressed nice, and he's dressed like like Johnny Rotten or something, and he's like he's got the crazy hair and he's just destroying everything, and he's got these crazy shoes. It's just like, yeah, he's supposed to be all of the things that she's not allowed to do.
Exactly.
So take that review.
So we're moving up. We've got 50s on the board now from the Los Angeles Times, Variety, and the Seattle Times. Well, you pick your poison.
Let's do LA Times.
LA Times. All right. Michael Wilmington from the LA Times gave it a 50, says Drop Dead Fred is an erratic stab at making madness sensible, a slapstick nightmare that goes too sane, that tries too hard to be both good and rotten. So, look, I think that's fair because as we talked about, I think one of the biggest issues with this movie is it's caught between being a PG kids movie for like 10 and under, and then being really like intelligent R-rated dark comedy about childhood trauma and the effects that has on your psyche as you grow up, and what that means for adulthood, and how you make really bad choices with like the person that you're going to partner your life with that is cheating on you, and how you're a doormat. And so I think at least that is fair, but is acknowledging where the film sort of like finds its struggles.
Yeah, I think he's kind of playing both sides there a little bit.
He is. He liked it.
Yeah, it's like, how did he feel about that movie? I'm not sure. It kind of sounds like he might be just not embarrassed to say that he liked it.
Yeah, I think that happens a lot. Like I write for the LA Times. I can't say that I like this
movie.
Oh, really?
Because,
it'll no, I don't, but Michael Wilmington. He says, "Ooh, if I work for the LA Times, I'm not able to actually
I'm going to
say that I enjoy this."
Yeah. I do appreciate when big critics come out and they're like, yeah, you know what? I love this movie that everybody thinks is crap. I just liked it. I don't know.
Yeah.
There's a few critics that are willing to do that and say, they might dislike a lot of things, but then there's one random, movie that comes out and they're like, yeah, I loved it. I don't know why.
Yeah. I told the Scottish boys, like, look, it's okay to just roll around in the mud, It's fun to just like get dirty and to just like play and have fun. Like, it's okay.
I'm distrusting of movie fans that don't have, a few bad movies in their favorite piles.
Yeah.
If all they like is highbrow stuff, if all they like is, certain kinds of films, it's like, you don't like, I'm trying to think of a crap comedy. I don't know. What's that? What Game Night or something like that. I don't know, which is a good comedy. I think that's
it is.
Comedy.
Yeah.
But yeah, films like that they're just there to entertain you.
Yeah, and I feel like there's been sort of like more of a push in the last like 10 years. I don't know if it's just because like I'm on social media more, so I see it more, but I feel like there's been more of a push to like not have fun. Like, I don't go to the movie theater so that I can leave the theater feeling like shit. Right? It's like, I still want to enjoy the experience of going to the movies, and so I think it's okay to have fun with bad movies. I mean, I built a whole show and concept around it because and what I've learned is that like in talking to people about the bad movies that they like, it's really about like people and where they sort of draw the lines with the kind of things that they allow themselves to have fun with, and the kind of things where it's like you have to draw the line and it's like, this is below my radar my radar floor for where I'm gonna see bad movies. And I know there's one that came out that it was called like Kites, and a friend of mine, Vanessa, who runs Mother of Movies, she sees like all of these really bad movies, and we did a episode on Velocipaster at the beginning of season 2, and like that's a movie that is intentionally bad but is great at being intentionally bad. And so the movie Kites, though, is this like, okay, there's killer kites, right? Just it's as crazy and dumb as it sounds. But it's like, I'm a guy who likes the movie Rubber, where there's a tire that goes and like has telekinesis and kills people. So I'm totally okay with just having fun and not like taking the film or myself too seriously in the process. And then I watch a bunch of critically acclaimed movies and I love those too. And I can separate.
You can like all of those things.
So
I remember getting a lot of stick when I was younger for liking The Cable Guy when it came out, you know. People were like, it's terrible. I was like, no, I thought it was pretty good, you know. I thought, and then 20 years later, everyone's fine with it.
That position has aged well, huh?
Yeah, there you go. But I think the bad movies you like maybe are a better indication of who you are than the good movies you like sometimes.
I mean, because
it's more about you maybe.
It's easy to be like, oh, this is a movie that is critically acclaimed and is well made, and it sort of has all of the hallmarks of something that will stand the test of time, for example. And so it's sort of like easy to like hit your wagon to that and be like, oh, I like this movie that everybody for the most part likes. And it's like, Shawshank Redemption is a great movie. I'm not taking that away from Shawshank, but I think that's sort of like an easy movie to be like, Shawshank's a great movie and I love that movie. It's like, of course everybody loves Shawshank. I've never met anyone who's like, that movie sucks. So it's more definitive of who I am to say I like Drop Dead Fred than it is to say that I love Shawshank just as much. Like they're just very opposite ends of the spectrum.
And you can like both those things, you know, it's fine.
All right. So that brings us to the end where we have the Orlando Sentinel gave it a 70. And this is Jay Boyar. Wow. So it's the only net positive review on the board, but that's a 7 out of 10. So that's pretty solid. And I'll say, he says, I had fun watching Drop Dead Fred, but I want to take special care not to raise expectations unrealistically by overpraising it. The movie is no comic masterpiece, but it is consistently amusing in a way that sometimes reminded me of a kiddie picture and other times of a more sophisticated comedy. And so, look, he's able to echo the sentiments that we've seen in several other of these reviews that you and I have talked about, but also to just acknowledge I had fun watching this movie. It maybe isn't perfect. It doesn't hit its notes all that well. It's not maybe the comedic masterpiece that some of these other movies are, but he understands that it's trying to do this and it's trying to do this and it's having a hard time maybe marrying them both, but it's still okay to have fun watching it. So Jay at the Orlando Sentinel, I don't think you're ever going to hear this, but respect. And this is from 1991. So it's not even like he revisited this recently. He's the only person that watched it in 91 and was like, you know what? This is fun. Everybody else is crazy.
That's nice. That's a nice review.
It is. So that's a nice one to end on. But, you know, we've covered a lot of ground here, and I still do have my little thing that I wrote for movie friends. So I want to circle back to that. I'm just going to read it here. It's a couple of paragraphs that I've seen Drop Dead Fred many times over the years, from childhood to adulthood. And it's more than fair to say that it's one of my favorite movies. But in the name of due diligence, I watched it again recently to see if my position had wavered and found that it's just as good, if not better than ever. While it may be easy to get put off or be dismissive of the admittedly childish and cartoonish vulgarity of the slapstick nature on its surface, this isn't a story about magic or fantasy. This film is really an allegory for childhood trauma, and the character of Fred is Elizabeth's trauma response to the abuse she receives at the hands of her mother. Fred doesn't really exist. He isn't a genie in a bottle, despite popping out of a jack-in-the-box. He's a coping mechanism that was born out of necessity for Elizabeth to protect herself from the emotional abuse she received as a child. That's why he operates in the crude and immature way that he does, because he's a manifestation of Elizabeth's childhood mind. Fred exists only in her mind, and in rewatching it, I sort of see him as her id. He's there to help her satisfy her basic needs and wants for things like fun, playfulness, affection, and even the unconditional kind of love that she doesn't really get from her mother. He's that part of her that wants her to stand up for herself, believe in herself, have fun, and also lash out against those who aim to do her harm, namely her mother and her on-again, off-again husband, Charles. When we meet Elizabeth as an adult, she's just lost her job, her purse, her car, and her husband. She's at rock bottom, and her mother has wrestled away control of her life once again. When reminded of Fred, the first thing she recalls is that he was always looking out for her, and when he first reappears, he tells her that he cannot move on until she is happy. From that moment on, what we're really witnessing is her inner child struggling to break free from her mother and the constraints her mother deems as the parameters of being a quote-unquote proper woman. There's a reason why the film's climax takes us to a hyper-stylized, symbolic manifestation of a twisted nightmare rendition of her childhood home, and ends with her literally freeing the childhood version of herself who's bound to a bed. The physical acting from Phoebe Cates and Rick Mayall is fantastic. We get to see great supporting performances from Carrie Fisher and Tim Matheson, and Ashley Peldon still gives one of my favorite performances from a childhood actor of all time, even though it is definitely not a kids movie, and I could see how the accompanying score might be confusing tone-wise. Drop Dead Fred is a lot smarter, deeper, and more genuinely heartfelt than its critics would suggest, and this is a film that I would like to see an R-rated director's cut for. But in the meantime, I'm proud to stand up for it and lead the Drop Dead Fred army into battle and raise the banner for its Bad Movies We Love Hall of Fame induction ceremony. So that's today. We're inducting Drop Dead Fred into the Bad Movies We Love Hall of Fame. So I'll insert some nice trumpet music for that. And thank you for joining me to be part of this and for jumping at the chance to talk about Drop Dead Fred. So I want to ask you, is there anything that we didn't get to cover that you wanted to bring to the table?
No, I think we covered pretty much everything I wanted to cover. I mean, I'm very happy that there are more Drop Dead Fred fans out there.
Look, there might be three of us, but it's okay.
Yeah.
That's three more than there were in
me and my
1991.
siblings. Yeah, that was it. Yeah, exactly. We've been keeping the flame alive, so maybe a few more people will check it out and be a little more understanding and be willing to give it a chance. And yeah, I think everyone should have a little Rick Mayall in their lives and a little chaotic energy and embrace their inner Fred.
That's a good way to put it. Everybody embrace your inner Fred. Don't go like too crazy. Don't sink a houseboat or anything, but find who you are and embrace the weird things that make you who you are. And don't be afraid of that stuff. But for people who maybe haven't seen Drop Dead Fred, which I still assume is a fair amount of people, what's a good movie that is more popular that people probably have seen that would maybe operate in the same neighborhood that would help convince people to see Drop Dead Fred?
So I wrote down a few films that I felt like it kind of had similarities to, but very different vibe. The Beetlejuice one has been mentioned numerous times. Harvey, I think, was mentioned in one of those reviews, which is a 1950 film with Jimmy Stewart, and he sees a giant rabbit who's helping him through his life. That's a really good movie. And then the other one, somebody said, was like, it's like Mary Poppins on drugs.
Yeah,
I think it's kind of
Mary Poppins
good,
on
actually.
different drugs.
On different drugs, yeah.
Yeah, I saw when we saw the new Mary Poppins, I was like, oh my goodness. I was like,
I didn't see it actually.
Imagine a dolphin just appearing in your bathtub. That shit would be terrifying. That's a good one. I don't know that I have like a great one from that time frame that would fit. I think like if you like Beetlejuice, you may be more willing to entertain sort of the zaniness of this, and then you will also, if you like Beetlejuice and you can sort of imagine a universe where Tim Burton put his spin on Drop Dead Fred, then maybe you can make that jump a little bit. Other than that, I don't know that I have anything that really like lines up with this one too well. I don't know Rick Mayall's body of work enough to really have any input on that, but you had mentioned Bottom, which popped up as well. Is that a TV show or is that
Bottom was a TV show. They did a lot of live specials as well. And I think there was a movie made. I actually never saw that movie. But and then they had another show before that when he was like quite young, called The Young Ones. And that's the one that had musical guests, and it had Motorhead and stuff like that on it. And that was just all of them living in this like poor flat, and they were all just like students, and they were just poor and got into hijinks. And it was a very, very kind of slapsticky, very irreverent punk show. I mean, it was very popular in the punk era. So yeah, if you can find episodes of that online, I'm sure there probably are a few. There's definitely clips of that and Blackadder because I watched them recently.
Yeah, they've
if you want some more Rick Mayall energy in your life, that's probably the way to go.
I do.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go looking for it.
Yeah. Check out the Blackadder stuff. It's good.
I will. But Darragh, thank you so much for joining me for this. I'm really glad that this was the first movie on the wish list that anybody reached out to me about. Felicia was like, "Oh, my partner, he wants to
I messaged her instantly when I was listening to it. I was on a bus. I was like, I would talk about Drop Dead Fred. Yeah.
That's awesome.
I'm very glad.
I know. I'm so glad that this was like the first one from the wish list, because when I initially wanted to make this show, this was right there at the top. Like, it's like this Waterworld, Biodome.
Oh, I love Biodome, actually. Yeah, I listened to that episode recently.
Those are probably like the three that are the ones that really made me want to do the show and think that there was like a substantial amount of ground to cover. I mean, and then I folded in other things like some of the really bad Schumacher Batman movies and Mortal Kombat and stuff. But this was one of the first ones that I thought of. It's on the poster. It's on like the cover art for this show as well. So again, I just wanted to thank you for your time and for reaching out and not hesitating to share your love for Drop Dead Fred, because I know a lot of people have hesitated to share their love for it, or they just haven't seen it yet and they're not ready to share their love and to love it. So I appreciate your time, really sincerely. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It was a lot of fun. Yeah, I'm very proud of my being a Fredhead, I guess.
Drop Dead Fred army.
Yeah. Thank you.
My sincerest thanks once again to Darragh for joining me, and you can find him and his movie reviews on Letterboxd at Darragh McG. Check out his film Insta at DreamWorlds_film, and you can check out his guest spots on the Seeing Faces in Movies podcast. And I've got you covered with all of that information posted into the show notes. And of course, thank you to everyone who took the time to listen to this episode. I know you have a lot of choices when it comes to podcasts, and I appreciate you spending your time with us. I hope you enjoyed the show, and if you do, please consider leaving a rating and telling a friend about it. And the new support page is live at ko-fi.com. That's ko-fi.com/badmovieswelove. I'd love to hear from you, so if you have a bad movie you love, and or maybe would like to be a guest on the show, you can contact me now at badmovieswelove@theshice.com or badmovieswelove on Twitter and Instagram, and that's love with an LUV. And as always, take care, be well, stay safe, and have fun however you get your movies.